Have you ever had an idea that was so amazing that it could change the world? This podcast is called This Could Change Everything, and we're talking to people who are working on ideas that can do just that. I'm Joe Kim. I'm a professor of psychology, neuroscience, and behavior at McMaster University. I also lead the McCall Postdoctoral Fellows Teaching and Leadership Program. And I love to talk with young researchers about their game-changing work. And today, we're learning about how it just might be possible to convert carbon dioxide into energy. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, Joe.
Okay, well, let's get started with a brief introduction. Can you tell everyone who you are and what you're doing here at McMaster?
Sure. My name is Amir Foroozan. I'm a postdoctoral fellow here at McMaster University at Higgins Lab, and my research concerns the conversion of carbon dioxide into various value-added products like fuels, like precursors for plastic makers, and as such.
That sounds almost magical. Can you give us a bit of an elevator pitch on how this works?
Sure. So as the renewable electricity generation is becoming more and more prevalent, we have, during the summertime that there are more sunny days, we have excess renewable electricity. So we are proposing using this excess energy to invest it in systems that are capable of doing an electrochemical conversion of carbon dioxide, which is actually the product of burning a fuel. It's the smoke. So converting that into the fuel, so basically reversing the reaction of burning. You burn something, you get energy out of it. Now we're doing the reverse. We invest energy into the system so that we get some fuel.
Well, maybe we could take a little step deeper. Tell us what's happening at the atomic level of this process.
Yes, so carbon dioxide is a very stable molecule. It's essentially one carbon at the center that is being hugged tightly by two oxygen atoms from either side. So it's very stable. It's the end product of burning almost anything that has carbon and hydrogen, like the fossil fuels, for example. So it's a very stable molecule. And it's hard to really encourage that molecule to get to react and get converted to anything else. So it stays there in the air. And the problem is that since the Industrial Revolution, 1.5 trillion tons of carbon dioxide has been discharged into the atmosphere. And people haven't been concerned with it because it doesn't smell bad. It doesn't look bad. It's essentially an invisible trash that we have been littering. And only recently, everyday people are getting into, they're feeling the indirect consequences of this because carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and blankets the planet and traps the heat from the sun. So it warms up the planet, it could change the climate. So what we are proposing is that we have to come up with an economical system, an economical paradigm to recycle, to collect this carbon dioxide and convert it to something valuable. Otherwise, it seems that by just hoping that politicians take action, or by just talking how dangerous this could be for life, for organized human life on planet, not much action could take place until you have a proposal that says, hey, this could be actually economical, profitable.
You definitely sound like an engineer. There's a problem and you want it solved and not just leave it up to politicians to come up with policy.
Yes, the pragmatic perspective into problem solving.
Okay, so tell me about some of the practical products that will emerge from this process.
This systems is right now at the research and development stage. There are some small-scale pilot plants that are trying to gauge how does it look like, what are the issues that emerge as you scale up, but still very lab scale. And the products that we're getting include gases like synthesis gas, as they call it, which is a combination of hydrogen gas and carbon monoxide gas, which these can be used as a fuel or as precursor in lots of different industries like steel industry, steel manufacturing. Other products, more like heavy products, include ethanol, like the alcohol that we drink, or simpler alcohols like methanol. Recently, there has been reports of propane gas as a product of carbon dioxide. So there's lots of avenues and lots of different products that can be obtained. It's essentially basically breaking that carbon dioxide molecule and then binding it with different hydrogen and oxygen, so like you get a wide variety of hydrocarbons or fuels essentially.
So if I understand this correctly, the key to this process is the electrolyzer, which converts that carbon dioxide into these useful products.
Exactly.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
For sure. That's the name of the systems that we use. So an electrolyzer electrifies, right, gives electrons. That's where the names come from. It gives electricity essentially to the carbon dioxide. It provides those the energy that is required to do the conversion and reversing the burning reaction.
Okay, so if we're converting carbon dioxide through this process into a useful product like ethanol and methanol, tell me a bit about the process of how that's created.
So in these electrolyzers, what we have is that a surface that allows the carbon dioxide to sit, to be attracted to that surface, to sit down. And the bonds between the carbon and the oxygen that I said they're hugging tightly, those can be broken. And we also introduce water vapor, like water H2O. So water is like oxygen at the center hugged by two hydrogens. So carbon dioxide is there sitting on the surface, water molecule sitting on the surface, and that electrons that are provided, that are injected into that surface in the electrolyzer, breaks the bonds like a lightning, if you wish, a lightning that breaks a trunk of a tree. So those electrons breaks the bonds between the carbon oxygen and hydrogen oxygen, and now there are these super active species like a carbon and carbon bonded just with one oxygen, or hydrogen and bonded to just one oxygen, right? So these are very reactive. They're thirsty for interaction. Then those could bump into each other and create ethanol or create methanol or synthesis gas. So that's how essentially it works. So what we do a lot, so catalyst design is a big part of it. So that surface is called catalyst that makes the reaction much easier.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So I assume on the input end, this is going to take a lot of energy that you have to put in. Can that be a limiting process on how much energy you have to put in?
Exactly. That's actually one of the challenges. One of the barriers is that we want the process to be energy efficient so that it can compete with the common methods of producing ethanol. So that's one front of the research, to make better and better catalysts to optimize the systems so that the products that we get at the end, compared to the energy that we invested in making those products, can be profitable, can be compared with the common industrial practices for generating those products. That's one of the focuses in the research.
So figuring out exactly what the properties of these catalysts are is going to take a lot of work.
Exactly. Designing better catalysts and finding out what is causing better performance. So go back in the lab and synthesize exactly more of that.
Okay. Can we talk about maybe some of the downstream effects here too? So, critics might argue that, well, you're still creating a fuel that's going to be burned. Isn't that still contributing to environmental problems?
That's a great question. And so here the purpose is not to solve the entire problem of greenhouse gases with this one solution. This is going to contribute to the overall change that we have to make so that we have a sustainable society. So this is going to create a recycling industry for carbon dioxide. Recycling it so that when you burn that fuel, then again you have a carbon neutral process within this loop.
I see. So it's better to think of this as a recycling process rather than eliminating, significantly our current CO2 problem.
Exactly. Basically reducing our dependence on extracting new fossil fuels, more fossil fuels. reducing that dependence. And there are ways of using some of these fuels so that the end product, the end waste, is not necessarily as dangerous as of a greenhouse gas.
Thinking about your research that you're doing, just how big a deal is this technology and how could it change everything?
So what it is projected that if this technology becomes possible and gets implemented in the real world, it could reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 50%. And Canada and different countries as well, they have set goals for themselves to become carbon neutral. So for Canada, they have set a goal to become carbon neutral by 2050, and that's a huge step towards that carbon neutrality.
Let's say everything keeps going well with your research. Can you give me some sort of timeline and what the obstacles might be before you can move from the lab into more of a industrial scale commercial production of this process?
Yes. Everything we talk is kind of hopeful and bright. Now it's going to get gloomy if you drag me to talk about the challenges. So there are lots of challenges. So I mentioned that we get lots different value added products, ethanol, methanol, syngas. The problem is that we get a mixture of all these products at the end. But when you get a hodgepodge of different products, it's not valuable. So you're not going to drink an alcohol if I say it also has acetone in it. That's not healthy for you. Unless you just say, I need something to burn to generate heat, then that doesn't matter what is the mixture, like if it's a crude application. But in most applications, if you want to generate value, you have to often offer a pure stream of a product. And that's one challenge. The separation step that has to come at the end of these electrolyzer output.
And that separation process can't be more expensive than the inputs that you're putting into
you have
it, right?
to take it all together, calculate how much energy you spent for whatever product that you want.
It sounds very useful to think like an engineer.
The other challenge is, we talked about it, the energy efficiency, and how much electricity you're spending, even though it's free from the renewable excess energy, but still the setup, you have to calculate, like investing on those solar panels or whatever, the wind turbine. So there's an energy cost that has to match with the profit that you're going to make. That's one of the other challenges. And then stability of these systems is also like you can design a catalyst, like copper actually is a good catalyst, and to make ethanol, for example. But like you could have the system on, it's performing excellent for a few hours, but then the performance drops. So there's a huge research community focused on, okay, what's going wrong after these many hours? What's limiting the stability? So these are all different challenges that we are essentially busy doing, researching.
It sounds like you're up to this challenge. Can you tell me a bit about what's it like working on something that could change everything?
The difference is, like in my PhD, I remember sometimes I could feel like it was more like a fundamental nanomaterial type research that was kind of far away from application. And in research, oftentimes you have your experiments fail. That's like a very common thing. You do an experiment, it just even doesn't work. It isn't like something in the system is not working. So just you have to be motivated and do it. I think in this research topic is working on this topic is much easier for me to stay motivated and in the face of challenges just go on because it's very much needed. It's very much a topic that is tangible even for everyday people, and it just keeps me. I have an easier time staying motivated.
So what's the next step in your research journey and your career?
So what I feel right now in the research community in carbon dioxide conversion is that those who do it with electrolyzers, they are one research community, and often they're not really collaborating or contacting or learning from the biologists who have insights into how plants are doing carbon sequestration and carbon capture and conversion. So we are two different separated groups. We are focusing on our own electrolyzers, electrochemical conversions, and I've never talked to any of these people who understand, who have insights into how biological systems are doing essentially kind of the same. Like when you have a fruit from the tree, this tree has used a lot of carbon dioxide and turned it into fructose and lots of other things, many vitamins. I have a feeling that they could help our community because a lot of the times I've tried to read the literature on these topics, and my background is metallurgist. I need to know, okay, what molecule we're talking about, but all they talk about is enzymes and these complicated molecules that the nature does it on its own. And so I think we can do like the next big step by learning from the nature, because nature's processes have been perfected throughout millions of years. And here we trying to do arrogantly our own system. So I think a lot of benefit can be made by these collaborations.
Can you paint a picture for me 20 years from now? Let's say all of this research is moving along, like what would the world be like?
So 20 years from now, I think we would have systems implemented in factories that have a relatively pure stream of carbon dioxide getting discharged either into the atmosphere or underground storage. So we have these electrolyzer systems getting almost like an add-on to their factories, so that they can generate either some of the products that they can further use in their own factories or just sell it as side income for themselves. So I can see that getting implemented, and there are already some startups, even in Canada or in the States, that using direct capture or these off gas from different industries to produce something like jet fuel.
So factories engineered to produce useful side products that help to reduce our carbon dioxide output into the atmosphere.
Exactly.
I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you so much, Amir. It's been a pleasure to hear about your research. And as a small thank you, I want to present you with this balloon filled with my own carbon dioxide that I would like to donate for your next research project.
Thank you very much.
I'm Joe Kim. Thank you for listening.
This Could Change Everything is produced by the McCall MacBain Postdoctoral Fellows Teaching and Leadership Program at McMaster University. Check the show notes for more information about our program and Amir's research. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Happy researching!